no, 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 don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Why even have a trust at all if you're not actually going to use it the right way? Hi, Jeff Marsachi, the Plain English Attorney, and welcome to the video. Today we are going to talk about trust funding and bank accounts. For whatever reason, this seems to be the thing that my clients just leave and they never come back to it. And it's like, oh, that's right. During the annual review meeting, we still need to go to the bank. We still need to go to the bank. Look, years go by. Look, if something happens and your bank accounts are not in your trust, well, then your trust didn't do what it needed to do. So we recently had a client. We examined everything, went over everything again. He'd been a long-time client, but his wife had passed on. And at that point, one of his 3 kids had also passed on, and we reviewed the plan, and the whole thing was everything's supposed to go to the 3 kids equally. And then we looked at the bank accounts. It's like, okay, well, one of them was just joint with his spouse. So now he has that account, but there's no contingency on that. Second account was payable on death to the 3 children equally. And so now, well, wait a minute, with one of the kids gone, it was equally per stirpes. A third of that account is going to go to the 2 grandchildren, meaning the children of that deceased son. And that was going to end up in court for, I think, at least 6 years because both of them were minors and the youngest one was going to be 18 in 6 years. This means the court had to supervise it. And then the third account was POD, pay on death, to the old executor they had named under a will, which was a friend of his who, in the meantime, had become homeless, addicted to drugs, and wasn't even 100% sure if he was still alive. Look, you need to make sure that your bank accounts are lined up correctly with your revocable living trust. Now, here are realistically the 4 options. The first one, put the account into the name of the trust. So now that the account is titled in the name of the trust, the terms of the trust take over. So if it's a couple, one of you passes on, well, the other's the trustee. They're still in charge of it. They pass on. Successor trustee steps in, and now they can make sure it's there for the beneficiaries and to pay for your debts. It's done. Because it's titled in the trust, it doesn't matter who's dying in what order, how far apart. The trust is now controlling it. If you think it's important for educational videos like this to get out there, then please help us out by subscribing to the channel. Second option, I don't want to necessarily say it's the lazier option because sometimes there are reasons for it. Making the account pay on death to the trust, and we'll go a little bit more into that option and what has to happen. Third option with the bank account is you're actually doing nothing because it's supposed to be outside your plan. I'll talk about that too. And then the fourth thing, which unfortunately happens all the time, is, hey, I'm just lazy and I'm not going to get around to doing it. And so it's just kind of hanging out there, or even worse, the banker is saying, oh, you don't really need to do that. You don't need to put that in the trust. Well, it's because they don't want to do the paperwork. All right. So just giving a story from about 7 years ago, and this just came up recently, about 2-3 months ago, where a client was calling and he was in an absolute panic because we had put together his revocable living trust. We had put his house into his trust. We went through the whole trust funding review, gave him his checklist of the things that needed to be done with the accounts, and then he promptly never came in for any of the annual review meetings. We get the frantic phone call. I just sold my house and the bank won't deposit the check. Well, the house was in the name of your trust, right? Well, yeah. And so the check was made out to the trust. That's right. They won't put it in my personal account. I looked at the spreadsheet. Wait, you were supposed to change all these accounts into the trust. Oh, I didn't do that. Well, now you need to go ahead and put that in, open up an account in the name of the trust and deposit the check in there. It's like, well, that's going to take time. And I don't feel comfortable having a $700,000 check right now. Well, look, what I didn't say and probably should have, look, that sounds like a 2018 you problem that just came to roost today. But when you have that account in the name of your revocable living trust, any checks made out to the trust can just get deposited. What likely has to happen in order to move a bank account into the name of the trust? What's very, very likely and very, very common, especially since 2001 in the USA Patriot Act, there were some pretty stringent penalties that were getting clamped down on banks that were not handling things the right way. Here's exactly what was happening. You can't take that account from your personal name and move it over into a trust or another entity anymore because terrorists were sending people in to the bank with a bunch of money, with the legitimate ID and legitimate social security number. They'd open up the account in their name, deposit the money. A couple of weeks later, they came back. Yeah, I'm starting this business. Here's my LLC, or I had a revocable living trust. Here's the document. Move the account in. Well, okay, they moved the account in. And then a couple of weeks after that, another group came in, another couple of people. Hey, we took over managing this trust, or we took over this LLC. We do our banking elsewhere. We need a cashier's check. Oh, okay. And then the money's laundered. What happens now is the banks will very likely tell you, all right, we can't move this account into the trust, but we can open a new account in the name of the trust and move your money. Is that fine? Well, it is if you don't have a lot of automatic deposits coming in and automatic bill pay going out, because you would have to redo all of those. The fact is, even if I have clients, and it's pretty frequent, I've got 6 checking accounts in my name. Okay, you've got those 6 checking accounts, but one of them is the operating account with all that money coming in and out. The other is, well, this is what we put aside for the tax fund. This is the vacation fund. This is what we have for the Christmas fund. But okay, all that's fine. The stuff where the money's coming in and going out each month is the one that they don't want to move in because they'd have to redo all that. Well, look, there's no reason not to move the other 5 in. So again, moving the money from your personal account into the account in the name of the trust, that's the recommendation. If you have a lot of automatic bill pay, look, that's just going to be a big, huge pain. And believe me, when I have federal retiree clients where they've got a pension from the government coming in and they also have Social Security, they never get it right the first time, about 50% of the time. All right. They can open a new account in the name of the trust, move the money, and then wait until they see everything move over. But if no, this is just way too much. All right. For just that one account, we can do the second thing. Make that account payable upon death into the trust. So this way, if you pass on, the money is pay on death to the trust, then your trustee just needs to walk in with their ID, the death certificate. Here's the trust. It shows that I'm the trustee. Move the money into one of these other accounts. So it's done and it's taken care of. So yeah, there's a little bit of a delay in paperwork. Now, here's a very important part when you're doing this. Make sure that the bank takes copies and files your durable general power of attorney so that they've got a copy of that on file. Well, why? Because if this account is titled in your name and you haven't died, but you become incapacitated for months, the bank is not going to just let your trustee walk in and start handling things. They may let your durable general power of attorney walk in. But what a lot of banks are doing these days, we have our own form. We don't accept these completely 100% legal outside power of attorney documents. It's got to be on our form. Well, look, if they've taken and filed a copy of your power of attorney, they can't very well turn around and say it's not on the right form anymore. We've already accepted it. So we're kind of sewing up that loophole of if you become incapacitated. And what happens if the bank says, oh, well, we can't accept that outside power of attorney. We've got our own form. Great. Bring it in right now. Let's fill out the same people in the same order and execute this right here. And so that it's done. You want to close up these loopholes. Now, just as an aside, in a lot of cases, we recommend our clients take the time to go down there, have a couple hours of time available to work with the bank and make sure that this stuff gets done. Do it in person. So this way you get the printouts that it has been done. Don't let them tell you, oh, well, you could just go online and do that. No. Handle it right there. Oh, well, here are the forms. You go fill them out and bring them back. No, no, no. Let's just do this right there. That's part of their job. I know in some times they're just really, really busy and they really don't want to do extra work, but this is what they're getting paid for. So now we get the third option. Leave it alone because it's not part of your plan. I do have a lot of clients, by the time they're coming in and doing the planning, they may have adult children where they are joint with the right of survivorship with that child. In fact, just recently, clients, mom was joint with the right of survivorship on 3 kids' accounts. So each one had their own account. She was joint. Why? Well, it was because she could put money in or take money out and buy things for them if they weren't able to do it themselves. And this is a very common practice when the kids are away at college and there's financial stuff that needs to happen in their hometown. All right. Thing is, it's not mom's money. It's the kids. All right. You just leave that alone. Second situation, also just as common. I sometimes have clients where they're joint on an account with a parent because they're helping their parents with paying the bills, but it's their parents' money. Again, it's not really yours. Don't worry about it. The only time to worry about it is what if the parent that you're joint with passes on or your child that you're joint with passes on, then that becomes your money. If you pass on, well, it was their money anyway. And then the fourth, which is just the lazy option, I'll get around to it someday. No, 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 don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Why even have a trust at all if you're not actually going to use it the right way and fund it? I often describe this as when we put together a revocable living trust, we are getting you the best custom designed suitcase to fit your exact situation. So when you go on that trip, it's doing everything you need it to go. But you know what? Look, I'm the suitcase manufacturer. I can't pack it for you. So if you're not even gonna pack it, well, then what good is it there? So make sure as much as possible you're going through your checklist and making sure everything is set up correctly, because the whole idea behind this as an estate plan, it's avoiding probate. If you don't pack the suitcase the right way, stuff could end up in probate, or worse, it could be going to the wrong people or at the wrong ages. When you're moving your assets into a revocable living trust, the bank accounts don't need to be a huge pain. They really don't, but it does need to get done. All right, so if you want to learn more about trust funding, we've got a couple of resources. We'll go ahead and we'll put it in the link, but even just the basics of it at freetrustcourse.com. We have a chapter in my book, Estate Planning Basics, that specifically talks about trust funding, and bank accounts are definitely listed. We do have a whole trust funding course that walks through all of this, even using examples and forms that we have seen at a particular bank and some of the questions, and we walk through it all in a lot more detail. That's for the people who really want that as a resource for funding their trust, and just other videos on the YouTube channel where we talk about this. So I hope you found that information useful. As I always tell my clients, please stay safe, plan ahead, and enjoy life. And whatever you do, make it a great day.